Today, we're simplifying Richard Wolff's enlightening book, Understanding Socialism, published in 2019. This book is a comprehensive introduction to socialism, addressing common misconceptions and presenting a clear, accessible argument for why socialism is both necessary and viable in the modern world. Whether you're new to the concept of socialism or looking to deepen your understanding, Wolff's insights provide a valuable perspective on this increasingly relevant economic and political ideology. Richard Wolff is a prominent American economist known for his work on Marxian economics, economic methodology, and class analysis. He is a professor emeritus of economics at the University of Massachusetts Amherst and a visiting professor in the graduate program in international affairs of the New School in New York. Wolff's accessible style and ability to explain complex economic concepts in a relatable way have made him a leading voice in contemporary discussions about socialism, an essential book for everyone to read. Richard Wolff begins his book Understanding Socialism by clarifying what socialism actually means, aiming to dispel common misconceptions and present a clear understanding of this diverse ideology. He emphasizes that socialism is not a monolithic ideology, but a collection of ideas and practices aimed at creating a more equitable society by rectifying the deep injustices and inequalities generated by capitalism. Wolff explains that socialism arises naturally in the course of political development as a response to the shortcomings of capitalism, particularly its tendency to generate significant inequality and social injustice. He states, "Socialism is, and always has been, a movement to rectify the deep injustices and inequalities generated by capitalism." This sets the stage for understanding socialism as a transformative approach that seeks to restructure economic and social relations to prioritize human needs over profit. He explains that socialism involves public or collective ownership and democratic control of the means of production. This can take various forms, from state ownership to worker cooperatives. The core idea of these forms is to prioritize social needs and welfare over profit maximization. Wolff stresses that understanding the diversity within socialism is crucial for appreciating its potential to address different economic and social challenges. Wolff outlines a number of different possible forms of socialist ownership that the proletariat could collectively organize. One form of socialist ownership is public ownership, where the state owns and controls the means of production. This can include industries such as healthcare, education, transportation, and utilities. In this model, the government manages these resources and services on behalf of the people, with the goal of ensuring equal access and preventing exploitation by private interests. An example of this can be seen in the National Health Service, NHS, in the United Kingdom, where healthcare is publicly funded and provided free at the point of use. The second form is collective ownership. This involves the ownership and management of resources and enterprises by the workers themselves or by the community. This model seeks to democratize economic decision-making, ensuring that those who work in and depend on these enterprises have a say in how they are run. For instance, in some cooperative housing projects, residents collectively own and manage their living spaces, making decisions through democratic processes. Thirdly is worker cooperatives. These are a key example of collective ownership and one of the most discussed forms of socialist organization in Wolff's book. In a worker cooperative, the workers own the business and have democratic control over its operations. Each worker typically has one vote, and major decisions are made collectively. Profits are distributed among the workers rather than being concentrated in the hands of a few owners or shareholders. Wolff highlights the potential of worker cooperatives to address issues of inequality and exploitation inherent in capitalist enterprises. He explains how these cooperatives operate on principles of fairness and mutual benefit, providing workers with greater control over their work conditions and the distribution of surplus. For example, the Mondragon Corporation in Spain is one of the largest and most successful worker cooperatives in the world, encompassing a federation of cooperatives across various industries, all owned and managed by their workers. Another approach within socialism is social democracy, which combines elements of socialism with market mechanisms. Social democracies maintain a capitalist economy, but introduce extensive social welfare programs and regulations to reduce inequality and provide a safety net for all citizens. Countries like Sweden and Norway are often cited as examples, where robust social welfare systems, high levels of taxation, and strong labor protections coexist with market economies. In social democracies, the government plays a significant role in redistributing wealth through progressive taxation and public services. This approach seeks to harness the productive capabilities of capitalism while mitigating its negative social impacts through state intervention and regulation. Wolff emphasizes that a central tenet of socialism is democratic control over economic decisions. He argues that extending democracy from the political realm to the economic realm is crucial for achieving true social justice. In this vision, not only should workers have a say in their workplaces, but broader economic planning should also be conducted through democratic means, involving public participation and accountability. He writes, democratic socialism is about extending democracy from the political to the economic realm. This means that major economic decisions, such as what to produce, how to produce it, and how to distribute the resulting goods and services, should be made with input from the public, ensuring that the economy serves the needs of society rather than the interests of a wealthy elite. By defining socialism and explaining its various forms, Richard Wolff provides a comprehensive overview of how socialism can be implemented in practice. From public and collective ownership to worker cooperatives and social democracy, these models offer diverse ways to organize society more equitably and democratically. Wolff provides a historical overview of socialism, tracing its roots from early thinkers like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels to contemporary movements. He highlights key moments in socialist history, such as the Russian Revolution, the rise of social democracy in Europe, and the development of various socialist states. Wolff states, to understand socialism today, we must look at its history, both its successes and its failures. By examining the historical context, Wolff aims to show how socialism has evolved and adapted to different circumstances. He acknowledges the achievements and shortcomings of past socialist experiments, emphasizing the lessons that can be learned from them. This historical perspective helps readers see socialism as a dynamic and evolving ideology rather than a static set of doctrines. A significant part of Richard Wolff's argument in understanding socialism is his detailed critique of capitalism. He outlines several inherent flaws within the capitalist system, which include inequality, exploitation, economic instability, and environmental degradation. Wolff argues that capitalism prioritizes profits over people, leading to significant social and economic problems. He writes, capitalism by its very nature generates inequality and insecurity for the majority. Wolff emphasizes that capitalism inherently creates and exacerbates economic inequality. The system is designed to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few while leaving the majority with insufficient resources. This is due to the profit-driven nature of capitalism, where the accumulation of capital by business owners and investors is prioritized over fair distribution. Wolff notes that the gap between the rich and the poor has been widening, particularly in the United States, where the top 1% owns a disproportionate share of the wealth. He provides empirical data to show that despite economic growth, wages for the average worker have stagnated, while executive compensation has skyrocketed. Exploitation is another critical flaw that Wolff highlights. In a capitalist system, workers are paid less than the value of the goods and services they produce. This surplus value is appropriated by the capitalists, who own the means of production. Wolff argues that this exploitation is fundamental to capitalism, as it allows capitalists to accumulate wealth at the expense of the working class. He explains how this dynamic creates a power imbalance, where workers have little control over their work conditions and are often subjected to long hours, low wages, and poor working environments. This exploitation not only undermines workers' well-being, but also perpetuates social and economic inequality. Capitalist economies are characterized by cycles of boom and bust, leading to periods of economic prosperity followed by recessions and depressions. Wolff points out that these cycles are inherent to capitalism because of overproduction, underconsumption, and speculative bubbles. He uses the 2008 financial crisis as a prominent example of capitalism's instability, where risky financial practices led to a global economic meltdown, resulting in massive job losses, foreclosures, and a severe recession. Wolff argues that these recurring crises are not anomalies, but rather systemic features of capitalism that cause widespread suffering and instability. Wolff also critiques capitalism for its unsustainable exploitation of natural resources. He argues that the relentless pursuit of profit drives environmental destruction as businesses prioritize short-term gains over long-term sustainability. This leads to practices such as deforestation, pollution, and overfishing, which degrade ecosystems and contribute to climate change. Wolff emphasizes that capitalism's focus on growth and consumption is incompatible with environmental conservation, posing a significant threat to the planet's health and future generations. The social and political implications of capitalism's flaws are profound. Wolff discusses how economic inequality translates into political power, where wealthy individuals and corporations exert significant influence over policy decisions. Also, how this undermines democratic processes and leads to policies that favor the rich, perpetuating a cycle of inequality and disenfranchisement. Additionally, the instability caused by economic crises often results in social unrest, as people lose faith in the system and demand change. Wolff emphasizes the alarming disparity in wealth distribution within capitalist societies. He cites data showing that in the United States, the top 1% of households own more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. This concentration of wealth has increased over the past few decades, with the wealthiest individuals and families accumulating an ever greater share of the nation's resources. For instance, Wolff references a study from the Economic Policy Institute, which shows that between 1979 and 2017, the share of total income going to the top 1% nearly doubled, while the bottom 90% saw their share decline. The plight of low-wage workers is another critical issue Wolff addresses. He highlights that, despite working full-time, millions of workers in capitalist economies struggle to make ends meet. Wolff points to the stagnation of real wages in the United States, where, adjusted for inflation, the average hourly wage has barely increased since the 1970s. He contrasts this with the dramatic rise in CEO compensation, which has grown by over 900% during the same period, according to data from the Economic Policy Institute. He also references reports from organizations like Oxfam, which show that the world's 26 richest individuals own as much wealth as the poorest 50% of the global population. And he discusses studies from the United Nations, which indicate that more than 820 million people worldwide suffer from hunger, a stark contrast to the immense wealth held by a few. By grounding his critique in empirical data and real-world examples, Wolff provides a compelling argument against the sustainability and fairness of capitalism. He shows how the system inherently generates inequality, exploits workers, and degrades the environment, leading to widespread social and economic issues. Wolff's use of concrete evidence helps readers understand the tangible impacts of capitalist practices and underscores the urgency of exploring alternative economic systems that prioritize human and environmental well-being. This detailed critique sets the foundation for his exploration of socialism as a viable and necessary alternative capable of addressing these deep-rooted problems. Wolff emphasizes the importance of democracy and socialism, distinguishing democratic socialism from authoritarian versions of socialism. He argues that genuine socialism must be democratic, with political and economic power in the hands of the people. Wolff states, democratic socialism is about extending democracy from the political to the economic realm. This involves not only democratic control of workplaces, but also broader democratic planning and decision-making in the economy. Wolff believes that integrating democratic principles into economic systems can create more just and sustainable societies. He contrasts this vision with the undemocratic practices seen in some historical socialist states, arguing for a model that combines economic planning with individual freedoms and democratic governance. Wolff addresses the question of how to transition from capitalism to socialism. He argues that this transition must be gradual and involve a combination of reforms and revolutionary changes. Wolff writes, "The road to socialism is not a straight path, but a complex journey requiring both immediate reforms and long-term strategies." He suggests practical steps that can be taken within the current system to move towards socialism, such as promoting worker cooperatives, increasing social welfare, and implementing progressive taxation. Wolff emphasizes the importance of building broad coalitions and engaging in grassroots organizing to create the political will for socialist change. He also discusses the role of education and public discourse in challenging capitalist ideology and promoting socialist ideas. Understanding socialism has had a significant impact on contemporary discussions about socialism, particularly in the context of increasing economic inequality and political disillusionment. Wolff's clear and accessible presentation of socialist ideas has resonated with a broad audience, including young people and activists seeking alternatives to the current economic system. Wolff's emphasis on practical solutions and democratic principles has helped to demystify socialism and present it as a viable and attractive option for addressing today's social and economic challenges. His work has contributed to the growing interest in socialist ideas and movements, particularly in the United States, where socialism is often misunderstood or stigmatized. Richard Wolff's understanding. Socialism is a crucial text for anyone interested in exploring the principles and potential of socialism. For those new to the concept, it offers a clear and comprehensive introduction, addressing common misconceptions with clarity and presenting a compelling case for why socialism is necessary. For those familiar with socialist ideas, it provides deeper insights into the diversity within socialism and practical strategies for achieving socialist goals. Wolff's critique of capitalism and his presentation of socialist alternatives highlight the systemic issues of the current economic system and the potential for creating a more equitable and democratic society. His emphasis on the historical context and the importance of democratic principles offers valuable lessons for contemporary socialist movements. In essence, understanding socialism is an essential read for anyone seeking to understand the economic and political ideology of socialism and its relevance in the modern world. Wolff's engaging style and thorough analysis make this book a powerful tool for education and activism, helping to build a more informed and empowered movement for social change. This comprehensive look at Wolff's work not only enhances our understanding of socialism, but also challenges us to think critically about the organization and goals of movements for social and economic justice. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Richard Wolff's Understanding Socialism. We hope you found this exploration informative and engaging. Socialism is a complex and diverse ideology, and Wolff's book provides an excellent foundation for understanding its principles and potential. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and fellow enthusiasts of economic and political theory. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Wolff's ideas. Do you agree with his critique of capitalism? What do you think about the potential of worker cooperatives or social democracy? Drop your comments below and let's start painting the world of tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe to the Left Library for more in-depth, simplified book reviews on all the most influential works in leftist literature. Thank you again for watching, and remember, reading and understanding the theories behind social change is the first step towards making a real difference. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep fighting for a better world.